Hey guys, it's Jim. Thanks for tuning in and coming back and all those good things. So in this photo, I'm going to talk about a dreamscape. And I call it a dreamscape because basically, so let me back up. I just came back from a road trip. My daughter and I decided to go on a road trip. It's summer and I didn't have any projects, so I just took off with her. And we did 9 days. We went to South Dakota. I live in Texas. That's a damn long way, let me tell you. And we were driving it. So the bottom line is we spent about 9 days gone. I took, 1,500 photos, not really a whole lot. And we drove 3,100 miles. So a lot of sitting. But anyway, the point was to go to South Dakota. I'd never been, so I was able to check off 2 more states. Now I'm at 42 states out of 50, so I'm getting there on my quest to see them all. But one of the things I wanted to see really badly in South Dakota was the Badlands. And so I showed up in the Badlands on the day that we arrived in South Dakota, and sadly, there was just no sunset. So let me show you the photo. Here we go. And there's just no sunset. But as you can see, if you're looking on the right-hand side, I got a lot of different layers, and so I decided to make a dreamscape. One of my dreams was, hey, I hope for clear skies, and we'll stay out late, and we'll just watch the stars, and I'll shoot the stars over Badlands. Sounded like a great idea. Sadly, even though I had no sunset, it looks like the sky's clear. It's actually a lot of cloud cover, and I couldn't see the stars. We sat around until well into the dark hour, and there was no visible sky. I saw like 3 stars. So I made that, and that's why I call it a dreamscape, because you might be scratching your eyes out at this point and saying, "Oh my God, what did you do, Jim?" And the truth is, I did just a bunch of stuff. I almost cussed. I cuss a lot, but try not to on camera. I did a whole lot of stuff, and so I'm going to walk through that because it's fun to create stuff like this in Luminar, and frankly, it's quite easy. I got a new sky, I got all kind of filters and layers and a lot of mess, but the truth is, that's kind of what I envisioned seeing, and I didn't see it, so I made it. Hey, why not? That's the power of Luminar and part of the fun of it. So I like Luminar for the art of it and the power that I have over my images and the power and control. And so that's what I did in this photo. So this is a dreamscape, and let me show you how I made it. Okay, so now this is my raw, my base layer, if you will, my raw file. I have the raw develop filter, and let me show you. The photo started like that. So I made a few minor adjustments here. I did a little temperature and tint stuff, a bit of contrast. And while I was at it, I went ahead and just blew out the highlights. I just went ahead and jacked them up all the way to 100, because what I'm trying to do is create a really bright sky. In fact, I want a completely white sky because I'm going to replace it. I moved up the whites a little bit as well. Anyway, I got it about where I wanted it because the next step is crucial to the sky replacement that I like to do in situations like this. Now, I've got a video, and I'll put it in whichever corner it is. It's going to go into detail about how I replace skies. But the bottom line is, if you have the ability to create a really white sky and make everything else black, you can create a luminosity mask and then apply the new sky on that mask, and therefore it'll stick just into the sky. So even if you have a bit of a crooked horizon like this one, you can just drop that in pretty quickly and easily. It's not fail-safe, it's not 100%, but it's as close as you're going to get today in Luminar. And that's because, Luminar doesn't have an edge-aware brush. It's not quite as detail-oriented as Photoshop, for example, for things like this. But this is a damn good method, and it works on the right kind of photo. So that's what I did. A couple of things in raw develop, then I added a new layer. And on this new layer, I had 2 filters, black and white conversion, as you can see here, and curves. So the first thing I do is I turn the photo black and white. And you're probably saying, Jim, why isn't it black and white? And that's because I applied this with a luminosity mask. So the first thing I did is I jacked contrast all the way to 100, and I took shadows to -100 and blacks to -100, and then I took highlights and whites basically all the way to the right. Again, the point was I'm trying to create a white sky. So there's the original sky, and here's the sky now. So it's damn near 100% white. And the next thing I did is I took the curves tool and I went in, and what I did here is I just, if you look at this, and this is not a curves tutorial, but you can do all sorts of things, but basically I dragged the bottom left corner all the way over, and it basically helped me blow out that sky more. And so what I did is I I've basically got the sky completely white and the rest of the photo not. And so what I did is I went over here and I said luminosity. And so I said create a luminosity mask. So I'm going to click on brush just to demonstrate this. And you can see my mask. That was automatic and it basically went along the ridgeline, and that's because I created a completely white sky and then created a luminosity mask. So the mask applies to the luminous parts of the photo, which are the completely white sky bits. There were a little bit here and there in the hills, and I went in, I just clicked on erase, and then I erased them. Again, the video that I put in that corner a moment ago will give you the details on how this method works. It's probably my 4th or 5th most watched video. It's got thousands and thousands of views, so it's a popular technique and a great one. And it's not mine. It's been around for a long time. Anyway, you can watch the video and check it out. But that's what I did. I created that luminosity mask. And then I went in and said, okay, time for a new sky. So I went and added a new layer, and the new layer was a night sky. So in order to do that, you just say plus new image layer, and then you go over and you find a photo, and in this case, I grabbed this night sky. Now, to be clear, these are sky replacement images that I've taken myself and I have on my desktop. So this isn't something that's available. It's not in Luminar and it's not available for sale or anything. It's just a night sky that I took many years ago, and every now and then I'll just decide to do something artsy and creative like this photo, and I'll stick it in there. So I hit open, which I'm not going to do. And then I went into the tools menu and I grabbed the free transform and I just squished it up, because what happens is when you lay a new sky on top of an image, it'll cover the entire image. So I scooted it up so that more of the Milky Way would show in the photo. And then I went here to layers. No, I didn't. I got to figure this out. I was on the night sky layer and I went over here to mask, and I went mask, and then I went paste. And that's because on this previous layer down here, I had already done this. I'd said to the gear icon, I went mask, copy. And then when I got over here, added the night sky, and I said mask, paste. I can't do paste now because I'm not copying it. Anyway, again, the details are in that other video, so I encourage you to watch that. I'm kind of going quick here because honestly, the sky replacement technique is an entire 15-minute video, and I don't want to stick that on top of what we're doing here. So now I'm pretty happy. I've got my sky in place. It follows the ridgeline pretty well, and I'm liking what I have, except of course, you know, this stuff's too bright. It looks like it was sunset, which it kind of was, and I've got a night sky, so it doesn't go together. So I basically went in here, and let me turn on the tone filter and HSL, and I just started making some adjustments, which to me was basically, how do I get in here and adjust the bottom half of the photo? Well, here's what I did. Remember, I had the mask on this night sky layer. So I went ahead and took that, and once I did it, again, I did the gear icon, I said mask copy, and then I stuck it on this new layer, and I said mask paste, and then I said mask invert, right? So basically what I did is I took the mask, I pasted it, which was perfect mask for the sky, and then I flipped it, and that's what invert does. And so I inverted it, which means the mask is now applying just to everything except for the sky. So that's what I did to get to this layer. And then as you can see here, I just took the exposure down, and I took the, what did I do here? I took the luminance of the orange down. Let me show you. Really bright orange because it was kind of golden hour-ish, sunset-ish. Again, not a sunset to be excited about, which is why I'm doing this video. But I went in there and I took the luminance down. So basically this layer was calming down the tones in the foreground, which is the road and the hills. The sky's fine, I'm not touching that, but that's what this layer was about. So now I have a top layer and a bottom layer that are, you know, put together, and tone-wise they kind of match, not exactly, but they're a whole lot closer. So let me show you what this layer was like before. Way too bright. Hey Jim, that's a daytime image. You're right, it is. But now it's a little bit more believable as a nighttime image, and so now I added a new layer, and this is where I start adding filters or maybe a preset. And what I'm trying to do is I want to balance the light and the color tones and everything, because I want it to look somewhat believable. It's a dreamscape. This is total fantasy. I'm making it up. I didn't see this. And And, you know, so I'm fully admitting to being artistic or Photoshoppy, whatever you want to call it here. But the point is, I still want it to look kind of believable. And so that's what this layer is about. So I actually think this was a preset, but I got to be honest, I made this Luminar file a few days ago. So I'm not sure exactly what I did. But I just started sticking, you know, some of these filters on there, which came in a preset. But again, as I click through and turn these on, you can kind of see that what I'm doing is trying to get things, I want colors and tones to start to balance out and look, you know, excuse me, kind of believable. So next up was color balance, and some of these are very subtle. Image radiance, right? A little bit of that. And to me, it's starting to look like, all right, the hills are kind of bright, that's okay. But the road is starting to look like that's what you would see under a night sky. It's darker, it's got a little bit of that purple, because remember, that's what we started at, right? And if you want to do it before and after, I mean, we've come a really dang long way. Then I added Orton to give a little bit of that dreamy, kind of moody effect. Darkens the image a little bit. I came back to tone, right? A little bit a smart tone here. And then top and bottom lighting. And that was basically brightening the bottom a little bit. So I feel like now I have a pretty even image. A little too bright, so I'm going to go fix that on this next layer. And the first thing I do is go to tone. And boom, that was the first thing I did. I added a lot of contrast there. Smart tone's up by 1. That was probably an accident. So basically, I added a lot of contrast. It darkens the image pretty much entirely. There's the before, and there's the after. We got a crisper, darker sky. We got darker foreground. So it's, to me, starting to look pretty good. And then I stick a vignette on this guy. And that's because, and don't look at the color. Well, you can't help but look at the color, but give me a minute. For me, the vignette is great. I used it in my last video, or one of the last ones. I love to do the vignette and then add the inner light. It gives a great punch to the photo. So let me show you the before and after. There's the before and the after. I really want to focus on that road and that kind of S-curve that's happening in the road, which is why I stood there and shot it. And I want to accentuate that. The stuff that falls off the edges of the road, I don't really care about. So hence the vignette and the inner light. I think it really helps me to play that up. Next was a custom mask for saturation and vibrance, which was just on the road. And so I can show you this mask. I painted this in with the brush, and it looks like that, right? So basically I masked in a saturation reduction on the road, because let me show you the before. Way too bluish purple. It didn't look road colored, and now it looks more road colored. So I kind of like that. And then structure. I basically took that same mask from this last filter and copied it here and added structure. And then on top of that, took my brush and painted it in at a lower opacity to the hills. So I'm at 100% opacity here. And then up here, I'm at like 70% opacity. So you can do that on the same filter, on the same filter mask. You can adjust the opacity and change that. I wanted a little bit of bump in crunchiness on those hills. I don't know why I do that, but I do it a lot. Whatever, right? But I didn't want it to be 100%, so I went like 70, I think, on that brush there, just in the hills, whereas 100 on the road. And I'm feeling pretty good. I like what I have. Again, the before and after is vastly different. I mean, it's not even the same photo. It's not even the same sport, really, much less the same ballpark. But a couple things are bugging me, so I go into the eraser tool, and this is where I erase things. Let me show you the before and after. Let me turn that off. There's a street sign, or not, a road sign here I don't like. There's a couple of tree branches here. They need to go, and there's some, I don't know if that's trash. I don't know what it is, but that needs to go. So they went. And then on top of that, I did my final touch-up of color, because as much as I love my colors, I really need to tone that down. So I toned down the red and the orange. I don't think I messed with hue or luminance, actually. So just took down the saturation of red and orange. And in fact, I might bring that back a little bit. I kind of like it. I mean, hey, it's a dreamscape. We're making it up anyway. So I dream in color. I don't know about you. So maybe not this vibrant of color, but I definitely like my color. So there we go. That's what HSL did. There's the before. Give that a second. There we go. And after. After. There we go. So a little bit of color there, not a huge bump, but just liked it. And here's the before and after. So there's a before and there's the after. I love taking road shots when I travel, especially if you have really cool stuff in the distance, like these hills with all, this is the Badlands in South Dakota. So you get all this crunchy, detailed stuff. And I really envisioned taking an actual shot that would probably actually not look like this, but would look as though I had stars above the Badlands, but I didn't get it. It was too cloudy, so I made it up. And that's the fun of the art of creating dreamscapes in Luminar. One more time before daytime. Kind of boring. I mean, it could be okay. I would do a texture, you know, maybe bring up some details in the hills. I'd definitely do the vignette thing and focus on the road and erase that stuff. But outside of that, I wanted to create something fun and artistic and different. And it's not believable. It's not real at all. I'm not trying to pass it off as real. But I am passing off the fact that you can do this kind of stuff in Luminar, and it's not hard. And in fact, it's quite fun, and experimenting and doing these kind of interesting creative projects is a great way to like round out your skills in Luminar and learn new things. So give it a whirl. Let me know if you have any questions. Check out my other video that I linked to about the sky replacement. And that's it, my friends. Like, subscribe, share, comment. Let me know what you think. I'll be back soon. Appreciate you watching. Take care. Have a good one, and adios.